Well, my first store was a massive flop. It was terrible.
Really?
And I'm actually glad that happened in a way.
Matthew Scott is an e-commerce business owner who's generated over $30 million in revenue using a combination of dropshipping and private labeling / brand building. And he's here today to talk to us about what I think is one of the most underrated aspects of running a dropshipping business, and that is that it provides one of the best entries into building your own brand and private labeling that you could possibly have. Welcome, Matthew.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's been a long time coming, I feel like. I'm pretty sure we've known each other online at least for maybe a decade.
It has been. It has been a long time.
10 years, I want to say.
I've been sitting here waiting for my invite that whole time.
Yeah, well, look, you did speak at one of our Dropship Breakthru live events a couple of years back here in Noosa.
Yep.
So for everyone listening, Matthew is actually lives about 2 minutes drive away from me in some weird...
I can wave to you outside my window here.
in some weird circumstance that ended up happening. But yeah, it's been a while. You started... I think you must have started dropshipping right around the same time I did. It's about 14,
within a few months of each other, I think.
12 years?
Yeah.
12 years
Yeah.
ago. Where did you start? Why did you start?
I was a new father, so I had my now 12-year-old who was, one and a half maybe. And at the time, I had a job in construction. I was in civil construction, which is the same as what my dad does. And I kind of had one of those glimpses of my whole future ahead of me. If I kept doing exactly what I was doing, that's what I was going to be. And not to say that my dad doesn't live a happy and fulfilled life. It's just not what I wanted. I just went to the internet, I suppose. That was the, mid 2010s, and it was the exciting thing. I thought, why not give some of these things a go on the internet? And I tried a few different things. I tried affiliate marketing, and I learned a lot in every step. But then I stumbled across this course, which you did as well. And yeah, here we are 10, 12 years later. And as you mentioned, I suppose, $30 million in sales later.
That's a nice number. And as I teased at the start, these days you're not just drop shipping, and it's been that way for a while. What was your early drop shipping experience like?
Well, my first store was a massive flop. It was terrible.
Really?
And I'm actually glad that happened in a way, because a lot of people, I suppose, get into drop shipping and they might have an early failure and they immediately say, look, this doesn't work. Drop shipping doesn't work. It's dead. It doesn't work. But I realized what I did wrong and then applied those learnings to another niche. It was just niche selection for me, which I got wrong immediately. And then I found a niche that ticked all the boxes and it worked. And I think it was right place, right time. I was really lucky within the niche that I chose at that time for my second store, and it just took off from there.
Yeah, nice. I think it's funny you say that, and I actually, I didn't remember that bit about your story, but the amount of people I've seen who their first store for some reason doesn't work out, or their first go at dropshipping doesn't work out, but they go back and have another go, and in some cases another go after that, and then they find something really great. Like, it's actually a really high number. I can think of a lot of our students here at Dropship Breakthru where their first go didn't work out, and then their second or their third go, which you can cycle through those fairly quickly, really, when you think about it. But their second or their third one went on to become, at least do multiple millions in sales, and they're still running it today and all of that sort of thing. It's actually it's quite a common thing, and I think it's like you think about doing anything, and I don't know why, often people don't bring this mindset into business, but it's kind of like that riding a bike thing, right? When you first learned to ride a bike, did you fall off? Yeah, you fell off. You probably
Absolutely
split your head open or something like that. Does that mean you never rode a bike again in your life? No, it didn't. You when you're a kid, you get back up, you have another go, and you keep doing it until you get it right. And I think somehow a lot of people seem to lose that when they become adults. Right.
Yep.
I know the stakes are a bit higher and there's more work involved to start a business than riding a bike, but that mentality of just jumping back on and having another go seems to fall away for a lot of people. They have a go once, and then if it doesn't work out perfectly, they're like, oh my God, it's the end of the world. I can't do this thing. And they never have another go.
It's only the time really that you've invested. That's why this business model I still think is absolutely brilliant, because it's such a low risk entry price wise, that the amount of money you need to invest into it, it's only your time, and the time you're still getting a positive return on investment anyway, because you're learning on through every failure that you potentially might have. So if you were to decide to start a brick and mortar business, and everyone knows that, I suppose, the general odds of business success within the first 5 years, I don't know what it is, like 95% fail, something like that. If you were to start a brick and mortar business, potentially fit out a shop or a cafe or something like that, you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars that you're betting is going to work on that first one. But with dropshipping, it's completely different. You, as I mentioned, only invest your time, really, a small amount of capital, but then you can learn from that, pivot quickly. Your chances of success are infinitely larger than what other business models might be. And that's what I loved about it.
Yeah,
absolutely. Still do. We still build stores to this day, and if it doesn't work, we pivot. We do something different.
Yeah, no, that's literally, I think, and obviously this is the Dropship podcast, and Ben and I say this a lot, but dropshipping, high ticket dropshipping in particular, I still think, even today, 12 years after I started, or we started, or nearly 13 years, or wherever it is, I still think it's one of the best ways for somebody with no business experience or very little business experience to have a go and actually build something that can work. Like, I still struggle to, that can be done from anywhere, all that sort of stuff. Doesn't require you to have a lot of knowledge or equipment or, investment or anything like that, and just learn. Like the learning, the power of the learning experience. I know a lot of people get focused on the numbers and the money side of it and all of that sort of thing. Oh, if I don't make X amount of sales in X amount of time, then I'm a failure, or it's failing, or something like that. But the experience and the learning you get just from having a go, like, it's literally priceless. Like the amount of, obviously we're going to talk about where that can take you here in a moment, or one of the directions that it can take you here in a moment. And you wouldn't have ended up there if you didn't have a go at dropshipping first. Do you know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
What we're going to talk about today, I don't think you would have got it as right as you have if you hadn't started off where you started. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, I still made a heap of mistakes at every stage of my business, but by doing it through dropshipping as the gateway, which, as you mentioned, we'll get into in a little bit, but through starting off with dropshipping, it's a low risk, it's a soft entry into having, I suppose, the things you can have after dropshipping, rather than starting there first, which we see so many businesses do. And again, it ties back to that same brick and mortar business analogy I was mentioning before. If you go ahead and try and start a business without any information, without any prior knowledge, without those learnings, then that's when you end up in that 95% that fail. So
I want to short, like, I know there's a ton of backstory and cool stuff here, but I want to get right to it. I know people who are listening want to hear, we chucked out that big number at the start, and I kind of teased that, you've done something that a lot of people haven't from a dropshipping start, but a lot of people should. And I want to really emphasize that. I think this is one of the most, what we're going to talk about here is one of the most underrated benefits of or benefits and potential pathways that you could take from starting a dropshipping business. Almost nobody sees this when they talk about dropshipping, but these days I kind of feel like it's almost the point, if you like. Like, I think anybody who can, if you can make $1 million in dropshipping in sales, this is where you should be getting to at some point, right? And $1 million in sales with a high ticket dropshipping business actually isn't a massive hurdle or a massive bar to get to. It's a great achievement, but you can go a lot further than that. As I mentioned at the start, Matt's built his own brands, his private labeling, just at a basic level. Matt, what does that mean? What do those terms mean?
Essentially, when you have a dropshipping business, you have suppliers that have the products. When you get an order on your store, you send the order through to those suppliers, and then they send it straight to your customer. That's the whole business model, essentially. When you have your own branded products, you're also one of those suppliers. So you might get an order for your own brand of product within your store, but you control the fulfillment. So you hold that stock, whether it's in your own warehouse or what's called a 3PL, or third-party logistics warehouse. Even in your garage, it's a soft entry for a lot of people to hold stock, without even having a warehouse or anything like that. But you've got that physical product with you, and it's you putting the label on, it's you shipping it out.
The bit I love about this, so there's kind of two ways you can come to this. You can, a lot of people come to, having their own brand, getting products made, either to their specifications or to an existing set of specifications and just putting their label on it. Off the back of, I'm just a guy. I've got an idea. Usually it's people who are scratching their own itch, like, I want this product and I can't find it anywhere. I'm just going to go and private label it or something like that. And then they try and bring it straight to the market with no experience, no knowledge, no idea of whether people are actually going to buy it or not in the market, and all of that sort of thing. And that's a really high bar, because you're going to invest some money.
It's massive risk.
It's a massive risk. It's a really big risk. Not to say that it never works. Obviously, there are times where there's a lot of great stories out there where it has worked, but as a percentage, they're not very large. Versus starting with a dropshipping business where you're selling physical products to people, you're learning sales, you're learning marketing, you're building some cash flow, you're probably building a little team, like you might have customer service people by the time you get around to here. You have a customer base who already buy the types of products that you might, or related products to what you might private label or put your own brand on. And so bringing your own brand to the market at that point is a significantly safer option, because you can talk to your customers about what they do or don't want to buy, or what they would or wouldn't buy. You have cash flow to help support the investment that you're going to make there. You know how to sell stuff. Like, sales is sales. It doesn't matter what you're selling. If you know how to sell stuff, you can sell anything basically. You know marketing. You know how to run ads. You've got all of this infrastructure on the marketing side built out that you're just inserting those products into. And so, to me, like, this is why I say it's like almost such a no-brainer of a thing to do. And I can't believe that people don't talk about this when they talk about dropshipping. Like, people pretend that dropshipping is the end goal of starting a dropshipping business. And it can be, like, you can just dropship forever, sure, and that you can do that pretty successfully. But like, you could also build your own brand, increase your profit margins, all of this sort of stuff, build a even more valuable asset because you own the brand, and you could sell that brand, and all of this sort of stuff. And to me, it's just like, why would you start the first way with massive risk when you don't have to? You can actually start with a much safer entry point and actually make some money while you're doing it. All of that being said, how does one know when they're ready for that? Like, if I'm sitting here, I'm John, I've got a dropshipping business, I'm making some sales, I think I'm making some progress with that. Things are looking pretty good. My business is growing. How do I know? Like, and this is what a lot of people who are listening, I think, will be thinking is, okay, I've had this thought before in the back of my mind. I know I could do this. I'm making some sales, I'm making some money, but I'm a bit scared, right? I don't want to do it if it's the wrong time, because I'm worried that maybe it'll tank my dropshipping business in some way, or I'll overreach, if you like. Is there some sort of, I don't want to say formula or anything. I don't think it's that formal, but like, if you were advising somebody on this, like, when do you think would be the right time to do it?
I think you either fall into one of two camps. So, one, you've thought about it, you've entertained the idea, but there's something that's stopping you from moving ahead. And that could be what you just mentioned there. It could be fear-based. What happens if XYZ? There's a million things that could potentially happen. What happens if I bring a brand to the market and I upset my existing suppliers? What happens if I invest in all these products and the market doesn't like them, or they don't work, right? But if you're in that group, let's say, deep down somewhere that's what you want to do, that's where you are now isn't the end game for you. You're not where you want to be, ideally, within yourself and your business. So there's an itch to scratch there. Or you could be in the other group where it's just not appealing whatsoever. You've, for whatever reason, perhaps maybe you're using this as a lifestyle business, perhaps. Maybe you're traveling and you just don't have the time and it's providing everything you need right now. You know, the thought of it is just like, no, I do not want to do that. And that's fine. As you mentioned, this next step, this private labeling, having your own brand, it can be that next step if you want it to. But there's also nothing stopping you from just having the dropshipping business as it is. It's an absolute legitimate, fantastic business model as it is. But for those that have entertained the idea of maybe I can have a bit more control, maybe I can have better margins. And it might even not just be internal sort of ideas that or reasons that you want for yourself. Maybe it's something external as well. Like maybe I want to serve my customers better. My customers keep saying, oh, I wish you had a product that matches this or that did this. Mm-hmm. And you want your business to be able to serve them as best as possible. Really, that's the type of business we all should be striving for, to be serving our customers as best as possible. And if there's no other way of filling that void or to actually bring that to your customers, then there's an opportunity there for you to take, for you to step in. So if you're in that group where you think that that's potentially something you want to do, but you know that there's something holding you back, then that's the first step. That's the first signal to say, yep, this is potentially the right path for me. I need to learn more about this.
I think it would be cool if we can think through this with an actual example. So can you tell us a little bit about your brand?
Yeah, for sure. I am in Australia, just like you are, John. And really for us, we've got a much smaller target addressable market for our niche stores compared to what some other people who have dropshipping businesses would, especially in the States. You know, we've got a tenth of the number here. So if I wanted to build a business that was just serving Australia, that could bring me the income and lifestyle that I desired, I was almost forced into this really early on. I knew that just by dropshipping, after running my dropshipping business for a couple of years, I knew that I needed to do something more. It was either more stores or something else on top. So I was kind of forced into this because of my ambitions, because of what I wanted. And perhaps maybe that's another reason why, just going back to your previous question before, why people don't do it initially, maybe dropshipping in and of itself is just comfortable for you as well. So some people who have sufficient amount of revenue and profit from their dropshipping business alone, they think, oh, I don't want to rock the boat. You know, I'm happy where I am. But for me, it was different. I needed more. I was on I suppose, just to go back to my story a little bit, I had a decent income in the job that I had. I had a house, I had a mortgage, I had a family. And so to get my income back to that level and to exceed that, I needed more than just dropshipping. So it wasn't just a desire for me. It came out of a necessity to grow.
Looking at your brand that you launched, so I'm going to put that out there. It's Heave, Heeve. It's at heave.com.au, isn't it?
It is, yes.
Yeah. So I'll put the link to that in the show notes so people can go and check it out. It's probably something that people would never have thought about selling, most people, but obviously people are buying these things. So essentially ramps and that sort of stuff. And I'll say Matt's grown this so big that he's now in Bunnings in Australia. So if anybody knows Bunnings, they're a big hardware and homeware and garden retailer that's found in every town in Australia, pretty much. If you're in the US, the equivalent's probably Home Depot. So that's a massive thing, right? And so this is a brand that started off with just drop shipping or a drop shipping business that a brand got launched from. One of the things that I know when people look at this, who are interested in high ticket drop shipping, they're going to look at this, and I've heard this so many times over the years from people with a high ticket dropshipping business who are thinking about going into private labeling or building their own brand. Oh, but I sell high ticket products. Isn't that going to be really expensive for me to go and get a private label thing happening, right? Because my products are so expensive. Like, don't I need to get like containers and containers of products straight away? And I'm going to have to invest like, $50,000, $100,000 or something like that just to get this happening. And obviously now with this brand, you've got a range of different products. You've got a whole range of different products. I can see looking at the website, there's a lot of different products that you've got that brand on now. Obviously it didn't start that way, but some of these products are quite high ticket. Some of them are lower ticket and some of them are somewhere in the middle. So is it that scary? Is it that hard to private label high ticket products?
No, it's not hard. It's not scary. It's scary when you don't have the roadmap, when you go into it blind, because there's more risk, I suppose. So in the beginning, I suppose I'll tell you how I tackled this. I knew that I needed something else. I needed to grow my business. And the path I chose was to private label, white label, whatever you want to call it, create my own brand. And so the way I went about that was I had my store running for a couple of years. We had all of the suppliers within the niche already on that store and all of their products, as best as we could have built it. And during that time, we of course gathered data. We would listen to our customers and hear what they would say about what they liked or disliked about products. We could of course look at our analytics and see what the best selling categories were, what the best selling products were, what our margins were. And so during those couple of years, we gathered all that data, which then enabled me to look for opportunities. So we could see what our customers were asking for, which didn't actually exist in the marketplace. So our customers, as I mentioned, Heave is our own internal brand. Our retail website, our dropshipping business is called Ramp Champ. So we sell ramps, as you mentioned. And we had people coming to us saying, hey, look, I want this type of ramp. But we couldn't offer that because it just didn't exist in the marketplace. It wasn't around. Or we love this product, but we wish it had this feature. Or it was slightly longer, or it folded up in this certain way. And so we've got all this information from our customers literally telling us what they want from dropshipping for a couple of years. And so the logical next step for us, for me, was because I needed to grow, I needed to create my own brand to grow my business, to get to a personal income goal that I needed. The logical next step was to fill those gaps, fill those voids, fill what our customers were asking for. But to your point, like, is it scary? I did a heap of research in the beginning because there's nothing out there. At the time, there was definitely nothing out there that taught me this. I did purchase a course, which I think was in its dying stages, and I think it maybe shut down within the first few months of me buying it to learn how to import. So I was really flying blind, and I made every mistake under the sun. But to, I suppose, recap on the things that I would do now is I would do things pretty much the same way. I would use that runway, like have that dropshipping business for at least 12 months, gather that information, and then next thing I would do is I would start holding stock of the best-selling brands that you have on your store, the products which are selling well. There's low risk involved in that because you know that they sell, right? But what that does is that gives you another soft entry, just like dropshipping is a soft entry into e-commerce. That gives you another soft entry into like that next step, which is holding and owning your own products. You're buying small amounts of stock which sells really well, and that gives you that next level of learning in regards to how many pallet spaces does this product take up? If I'm holding it in my garage, what does it look like? Or if I've got my own little warehouse, perhaps, you're getting a really soft entry into learning about these products. And then from there, you then have the knowledge to be able to safely go out and find potential manufacturers for these products which you might want to bring to market. You've got all that data as to what the market wants. You've got the experience from holding products and using a 3PL, learning about pick and pack costs and warehouse fees and pallet spacing costs and all that. And so when you finally get to the stage of having your own branded products, you're going to avoid a lot of the common pitfalls that people might have if they were to jump into going straight to a manufacturer and buying a whole container full of stock that you don't know whether it's going to sell or not. So that's essentially the path that we took in a roundabout way. And we just started small. So yes, I've got hundreds of SKUs now, but it was a gradual thing. I used the profits from the dropshipping business to purchase that stock, so I never had to get any investors on board or borrow any capital to be able to do this. Everything was as low risk as possible. I'm quite risk averse. I don't like risking everything, because very early on I created this dropshipping business. What I didn't mention before in the very beginning, but I went all in on this dropshipping business. As soon as I started seeing some success from it, I knew this is what I wanted to do. And I quit my job. I moved my whole family over to Thailand for a few months while I bootstrapped the business. And so that was probably the riskiest thing I've ever done. And I knew moving forward in business, I couldn't make those big bets anymore. So everything that I've done since then has been calculated to remove as much risk as possible while still propelling me forward.
Do you remember how many products you started off with in the start? Like your first that first kind of order to manufacturer for your Heave brand, was it just a single product, or did you do a few in the beginning?
No, I tried to spread the risk across a full container of products, which I actually wouldn't recommend people getting a full container these days. I didn't know at the time you can order products in much smaller quantities. You don't have to get a full container. You can do what's called an LCL shipment, where it's perhaps maybe just a pallet load. Let's say potentially it's getting made overseas. All my products are made, well, most of my products are made overseas in China. So we get all of our products shipped to Australia now within containers. And what I did was I filled a small container, which is called a 20-foot container. They come in multiple sizes. We filled a small container, but we spread the risk across, I think it might have been maybe 5 different SKUs, 5 different individual products, because there was no point sitting on potentially hundreds or, a couple of hundred of one SKU, which was putting all our eggs into one basket. We decided to spread that across, I think, if I'm remembering back, because it was back in 2018, I think we started this. I think it was at least 5 different SKUs, so that we could then see, okay, which one is going to be working the best, and if one didn't work, then look, it hasn't been a complete failure.
So just going back a couple of steps, you mentioned, your first step with moving towards this path of, private labeling, white labeling, building your own brand would be to actually start holding stock of the products that you're dropshipping that are selling well, so your best sellers, as a soft entry point, I guess, into learning more about the logistics side of things, that, storing your own products, all of that sort of thing. For a lot of people, there's a lot of people who listen to this podcast that are exactly there. And me and Ben are constantly yelling at people like, you should be buying your products in bulk, or starting to, because you're going to get better margins, from your suppliers generally when you do that. And it just makes so much sense. I think with that, the biggest question people have is around the storage side of things. And, not everybody, a lot of people don't have somewhere on their, at their home or their garage or whatever, where they can store products. And a lot of people don't want to take that step into renting their own space, like a small warehouse or something like that, because there's some overhead that comes along with that, of course. So obviously in the middle of that is third-party logistics and 3PLs, as we call them. I know you've had some experience with using those, quite a bit of experience. What tips would you have for people around evaluating those? Because there's generally quite a few out there, and I know from experience that some are better than others. And that I guess that the quality of 3PL that you work with can, have quite an impact on your mindset around this whole thing of, holding stock of products and that sort of thing. I.e., if you have bad experiences, it might put you off from wanting to do it in an ongoing sense. Like if you were going out to the market now to find a new 3PL to work with, like what would you be looking for? What questions would you ask?
For anyone out there who has a dropshipping business who wants to move into this, what I call phase 2, which is holding stock of your best-selling brands, what I would do is I'll definitely look at a 3PL. I didn't do that. I moved straight into a warehouse, which had its own benefits, which I'll get to in a second. But I'll definitely look at a 3PL One important factor is having a 3PL which is within the proximity of where you live, so you can access it, so you can get to it. The reason why I went to having my own small warehouse in the beginning, or one of the benefits of that, I should say, really, was that I got a deep understanding of my products and my supplier's best-selling products by physically having them nearby me, but within my own warehouse. However, you can still get that same benefit if you partner up or find a 3PL which is within driving distance of where you live, because then you can just go and visit it. You don't have to have the overheads, as you mentioned, of rent and everything else of this warehouse. You can simply just go and visit your 3PL. So that's the first thing. Make sure it's within driving distance. The second thing is just to go and visit as many as you deem reasonable. Okay, so you don't just want to go and it's like buying a car. You don't just want to go and buy the first one that you see. You really want to go in and use it as a learning experience. Start asking questions. Look at how they have their 3PL set up. Look at their warehouse. And then ask questions such as, like, what happens when an order comes through to you? What do you do? If there was a return, what happens? Like, how can you handle those returns? If I have a customer wanting to pick something up, how does that work? I would suggest to people who are moving into this not to rush the process. These people who have 3PLs, they are more than happy to entertain you and to show you around and to try and sell their services. So use that to gain knowledge, because you're going to pick up things on the first one which will give you insights to other questions you can ask on the second one, and then same thing on the third one. So by the time you visited maybe 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 different 3PLs, you're going to have a really solid understanding as what's good, what's not good. And I suppose the third thing I would say is to get all their rate cards, all their pricing, and compare it side by side. So how much is 3PL A charging for pallet spacing or pick and pack fees or container unloading versus 3PL B? And you can, after a little while, you'll be able to see some patterns and see where the real value emerges in terms of which one might be right for you. I'll just add to that too. You're not locked into it either. You can put your products in there. So these are your supplier's best sellers, right? You're not going to go and fill an entire warehouse. You're not going to buy hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stock and put it in there. You're not going to be tied to it. You're going to put a very small amount of these products that you're buying from your best-selling suppliers in this 3PL. And if it doesn't work out, that's fine. It's the same as when you start a dropshipping business. It might not work. You can do all the research you can, but it still might not work for whatever reason. And then move on. You've only got a small amount of product in there. It's not going to cost you much to be able either sell it all down and then move on and move new stock into the next 3PL, or pay for a courier to take it from 3PL A to 3PL B. You do all of this before you have your own branded products, before your white label.
Absolutely. And I think, if somebody's sitting there, like you can, like a good 3PL, you can pretty much be there with any amount of products, right? So like, as in, it could be a single pallet with some, right? And so this doesn't, once again, if you're thinking about this, it doesn't need to be, I need to have 10 pallets or, a whole container load of stuff to even get into this. It can be really small. Like a pallet for some high ticket dropshipping businesses is one product, really. I sell products that are one product per pallet kind of thing. And so you can start with very small amounts. And I definitely suggest, it's a great first step to take. The first conversation is to chat to your suppliers for your best-selling products and just ask them the question, what's the minimum amount I need to buy from you to get a price break? I.e., like to get a better margin. For some of them, it's going to be like 5 products or something like that. Maybe 10, 5, 10, something like that. That's your starting point. That's like your first bulk order, right? And that's a small order. And it's certainly enough that you can put that small amount in a 3PL, and a 3PL will help you with that. So
And your suppliers are going to love you for this. You're investing into their brand, into their products.
Yeah.
You're not just asking or taking from them. You're saying, hey, look, I really believe in your products. I really want to make this work just as much as you do. And it's building that relationship you have with them. And so it serves on both sides. One other thing, I can't remember if I mentioned it or not, but you're not just limited by your best-selling suppliers or your best-selling products that they have. Some suppliers, no doubt many dropshippers out there would have come across this, but some suppliers just don't dropship. So unless you physically hold their stock, you can't get access to it. These larger brands perhaps, or brands that just don't, for whatever reason, just don't like working with dropshippers. Once you've got a bit of experience holding some stock, that can unlock access to these other higher tier, higher level suppliers as well. So then you have that edge over all your other competition out there who also has a dropshipping store up on Shopify. You now have the premier brand, and you now have your best-selling products, which you can control the lead time for. Of course, as a customer, you want to know how quick it's going to get shipped out. How soon am I going to get this thing? As a dropshipper, you are relying on your supplier to be able to get it out in a timely process. You don't control that. But when you control that, then you can advertise that as a benefit. Order before, let's just say 1 p.m. Order before 1 p.m. It gets shipped out in the same day. There's not many of us who can guarantee that, or that have suppliers that have such sophisticated logistics that could give you that. Whereas if you're controlling that whole process, then that's a benefit you can have on your store.
The other benefit of that, or where you can take that for your best-selling products is once again, sometimes to build a bit more of a moat around your business, is that often one of the problems we have as dropshippers with best-selling products is they run out of stock, right? And they can run out of stock all of a sudden and you didn't know it, and you're taking orders and the product's not even in stock. Like, this can happen. One of the downsides of dropshipping sometimes. And once you get into the practice of holding stock and you get comfortable with it, and you get comfortable with the sales cycle around it and all of that sort of thing, you can then start like literally just buying your supplier out of stock of your best sellers. So, one of the things that Ben and I have recommended doing ahead of Black Friday sales is go to your suppliers if you can and just buy your best sellers up. Like, buy a larger quantity. You're going to sell them at Black Friday if you've done it before. And that protects you. One, it denies some of your competitors access to the stock, right? So if you've got some smaller dropshipping competitors, you can just kind of stock them out of the market at those particular times, and you're guaranteed to have X amount of products available. And when you run out of those, well, let's just say it's out of stock right at that point, rather than taking, 100 orders in a few days and then finding out that your supplier isn't going to have any stock for like 3 or 4 months and you've got to refund all that money, which is a massive.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been there. It really sucks.
Yes.
So,
Absolutely.
I mean, I think that's another big benefit here, once again, that maybe people don't think about. And I don't say that to suggest that that's your first bulk order, is to go and buy all of your suppliers' stock of a product that they have in their warehouse, but that's what you can work your way up to. And like I say, if you can get to the point of doing that around some of your best-selling products, like your competitive advantage, you haven't changed anything else. You haven't changed your marketing. You're not spending more to acquire a customer. You're just like kind of pushing some of your competitors out of the market because they might not be willing to do that. They might not be at that stage yet, whatever it is. And it just builds a little bit of a moat around your business before you go into your own brand once again, which builds an even bigger moat around your business.
That's it.
So
it's all about mitigating the risk, as I mentioned before.
Yeah.
I'm quite risk averse, but in order to grow, you have to take on a little bit of risk. And as long as you do it in the right way, you never bet more than you can afford to lose. And it almost guarantees you growth.
Yeah. And I think another important mindset thing here, which, you kind of alluded to there, is there's also no rush with this sort of stuff. Like I find people always like, if you don't rush, it's a lot less risky, right? So I like your approach where you're like, run your business for 12 months, then do this small step, then move to bigger steps, even further down the track. And I think that's important. Like, I find these days a lot of people get very tied to time frames. Like, oh, everything has to happen in 6 months or it's not working, or everything has to happen in 12 months, or I feel rushed that I need to take this big step when I don't really have the cash flow to do it yet. And then I overreach and get locked into something that I can't really afford. And it makes it feel very risky. Whereas if you just break it down into small, fairly safe steps and wait until you have some data to suggest that you should do it. So you've been running your business for 12 months and you've got product A and you sell 5 of it, and you've sold 5 of that product every month for the last 6 months, you're on pretty safe ground that you can just go and buy 5 of those products and know that you're going to sell 5 of them in the next month, right? Or 10 in the next 2 months, or 15 in the next 3 months, whatever cycle you want to work on. Like, that's such an easy thing, but you learn so much from doing it that it's just kind of a no-brainer for people. Like, in most suppliers, particularly for high-ticket products, if you're buying 5 at a time, they're going to give you a better margin. Yeah, that's awesome. I think the biggest question that people who are thinking about this in the future or are getting close to the point of maybe going into the private label landscape and building their own brand, it's going to be like, how do I find my first product? Like, how do I know? How do I know what's the first product? And I think there are multiple answers here. I don't know that it's necessarily like, it's obviously not a one size fits all answer here. I think because it's going to look different in different niches for sure, depending on the nature of the main products you sell. But like, what are some, I guess, kind of pointers you could give people based on your experience for going to have a customer base of some sort? So I'm guessing part of the answer lies there. But like, what would you like if you were in a virgin dropshipping business that hadn't done any of this and you were thinking about doing it? Like, what would be your, how am I going to work out what my first order is going to be?
Well, we're doing this now. This is systemized for us. So we've got multiple e-commerce stores, multiple dropship businesses, and we start them off all the same way. We start off dropshipping. We gather that data. We look at what the market is telling us that it needs. We look for the opportunities. The next step to find, so you've done that for 12 months. You've got experience with 3PLs or your own warehouse or holding stock. You've got that experience. The next step then is to start seeing or looking for what's actually out there in terms of products that are not in your market yet that you could white label, that you could put your brand label on. So China's a massive market for that. So there's a bunch of websites. What we typically do is we will go to Alibaba and just start browsing through. Have a look at all the listings on there. These are your manufacturers that have the capability, the capacity to create the product you want. More often than not, they will already have a product. They will already have a solution there. They will already have something that you could private label, white label, put your brand markings on it. Maybe change it slightly if it's within their capacity to do so. And then you just start having conversations with those suppliers. I might be jumping ahead a couple of steps here, but to find out what that first product should be, I think really the data you have in your existing business will tell you what that product should be. But then you're marrying it up with and you're matching it with what's out there that already exists. What some people, I suppose, get confused with, and I've seen this play out in real life too, is they think they have to go and create something completely new, which you can do. You can create a whole, like I could create a whole brand new ramp, for example, but I would have to find a manufacturer somewhere, whether that's locally, overseas, that doesn't matter. What matters is the R&D, the research and development that goes into that is a massive cost. And that to me is a risk you don't want to take straight away. That's down the line, if at all. So that involves tooling and testing and paying for their designers and time. You don't want to do that in the beginning. That's high risk. So an easier soft entry into that is to, as I mentioned, look on these websites of manufacturer directories and try and find products which might match the gap that you've identified through the data you've seen with the products that you're already selling. And by going through that process, you're going to come across some opportunities. You're going to see things, oh, okay, like this looks amazing. This doesn't exist in my market. That's what happened with us. We were selling ramps, and some of the first ramps we brought in were motorcycle ramps or ramps for ATVs and things to get up into trailers. There's a million different designs out there you can have with different rungs or different lengths or different widths and things like that. But our market here in Australia only had a select handful. And so we knew our customers wanted a longer one, a higher capacity version, but it just wasn't here. And so we saw by going through these directories, such as Alibaba, hey, like this is a standard product that these manufacturers can make. Let's just start talking to them and start getting some information. Or how much would this cost? What's your minimum order quantity? Can we customize it slightly? Asking all these questions to learn more. You're gathering data at every stage. And so that's what we did. We did that in a few different types of ramps. We did one, as I mentioned, for ATV trailer ramps. We did one for dog ramps. We did another one. Geez, I'm trying to remember back now. Something relatively low risk. I can't even remember what it was exactly, but it was all these products which we knew were selling well. We knew we could bring a product which wasn't to the market, which the market wanted, and so we put our brand on it, and that was our soft entry.
I love that concept of like there's the product's already out there, more or less. Like there's so many. Like I think the mindset trap here for a lot of people is like one of kind of imposter syndrome. Like I think a lot of people assume that their suppliers already have this 100% nailed and their products are perfect. And how could I bring a product to the market that could be any better than my supplier's product, my dropshipping supplier's products? Like they've been around forever. I've only just started. What do I know? Blah, blah, blah. I think this is a big thing that goes around in people's heads. Like how could I possibly bring out a product that's like unique or really different, or like I don't have any ideas? And there's two things like I would say to that, and I'm sure you could add on top of this. The first one is that the overwhelming majority of successful businesses that exist today did not do so by inventing a completely new product.
No.
Most businesses that are successful today are simply an incremental improvement on another business that did exactly the same thing. Like that is the truth of business, particularly in the small to medium-sized business category. Most businesses are not unicorns that invented something that never existed in any way before and brought it to market. There are some of those, yes, and there are some very successful ones of those, yes, but they're a tiny percentage of all of the businesses that are started every day in the world. But the other way that you kind of shortcut that feeling of imposter syndrome and that thought that, you know, how could I do anything better than my suppliers, blah, blah, is with data and by listening to your customers. So literally, like if people tell you that I wish this product had this thing, or I'm looking for this and I can't find it. And sometimes customers are just going to tell you that when they call you up, but you can also go out and like actually gather this data in a proactive way, which is what I would suggest people do if they're thinking about going down this path. And maybe we can talk about that in a second. But your market is your customers and your market is the source of truth for this.
Yeah.
Like, and so if people tell you that something's missing, it automatically and 100% definitively means that your suppliers haven't got it nailed completely.
Absolutely. That's why you exist as a dropshipper, because your suppliers don't have it all nailed. They need you to help them sell their product. Quite often, their main focus is the system that they have built, which is making sure that they can get their product to market in that way. So they're not necessarily focusing on listening to their end customer. They're making sure that we can just get the product out the door. And a lot of these businesses have been around for so long, they, at least in my experience, they lose sight of the things that we can do better. So that's our opportunity. That's our opportunity to do things better, to fill that gap that they are either unwilling to or they can't. And you're exactly right. Like in the beginning, I felt like I was tiny. I was insignificant. I didn't matter to them. Fast forward 10 plus years later now, like our suppliers are, the tables have turned. Like they're knocking on our door saying, look, how can we sell more through your website? How can we make things better for you? We really want to work with you. We've got new suppliers coming to us saying, we can do this better than that supplier, so get rid of them because we can do it, right? So the more you do this, the more you realize that you've got something going that's really, really good. And not everyone else in business knows everything. I suppose it's the same analogy. Like I've got young kids like what you do. And as a kid, you think the adults know everything. They've got everything under control. They've got it all sorted. You and I are a similar age, and I'm almost 40 now. And I remember when my parents were 40 thinking, mate, yeah, like they've got it all under control. They know what they're doing. And then now being 40, you're like, I still feel like a kid in so many senses, right? So I kind of compare it to that in some senses, in a way, like that your suppliers don't know everything. And there's definitely opportunity out there.
So I want to ask you a question. You've done $30 million in revenue over the last 10 years or 12 years or however long. And, now currently more than half of your annual revenue comes from your own branded products. Like when you reflect, and obviously you're not done yet, you're part of the way along your journey, you're still going. So I don't want to talk about like it's over or anything, but like,
yeah,
in looking back in hindsight, in retrospect to this point, like how has bringing your own brand to the market changed your life / your business?
There is no way that I would be sitting here talking to you and if I hadn't have done so. I just didn't have the margins that I do now. So if I was still dropshipping, my business wouldn't have grown to the stage that it is now because it was limited by the products which didn't exist. So it grew from two fronts, I suppose. It grew because we brought products to the market which we knew the market wanted, which therefore increases the revenue in our business. But then the added benefit of that is we've got way better margins than what we would have, or than what we do with our dropship suppliers. So we control the price point. When you hold that stock, when you have that brand, you control the prices. Therefore, the profit that's left over at the end of the day, once you take out your cost of goods, your marketing expenses, and your overheads, your profit percentage is way more. And that, if you reinvest that into your business, it becomes like a flywheel. You can then, instead of having maybe a couple of VAs doing a few things, you can put more staff in, or maybe even more experienced people within those key roles to be able to grow the business and take things off your plate. So me, myself, and my business now, I've got an operator which pretty much runs my entire business for me. We've got a team of 16 at the moment, and there are people in all the different key roles. So sales, customer service, finance and accounting, even business development. So I've even got someone who is liaising with my suppliers in China, ordering the containers, doing all of that. So my role within the business now is completely different to what it would have been if I was just drop shipping, because I wouldn't have had that additional growth. I wouldn't have had the margins. I wouldn't have been able to do the extra things that I can do now because I have those margins and the control and the extra growth that it's brought.
Awesome. Well, Matthew, this is part one of a conversation. I think
just scratching the surface.
Yeah, scratching the surface, absolutely, no doubt. And I hope like people are listening to this at this point, and what I really want people to get from this is to get the cogwheels spinning in their head around what's possible, and that, like, as I said at the start, I think one of the biggest things that's missing from the conversation around dropshipping is essentially how you've used it and where you've taken it, and where other people have as well, but nowhere near enough people have taken it in this direction, and it's such a huge missed opportunity that I hope people listen to this and start thinking. We're going to get Matthew back for another conversation here on the show in the not too distant future and have a conversation about some of the strategy and tactical stuff involved on the actual back end of doing this. Like, how do you get your products from China to wherever you are, and how do you find manufacturers and all of that sort of thing? So if you're sitting here going, well, that was all great, but I want to hear more about like how I actually do it, we're going to do that. We're definitely going to do that. In the meantime, though, where can people go to learn more about Matthew Scott?
They can, at the time of this recording, it's not live, but they can, and it will be live, go to my website, matthewarscott.com. I'll have a bunch of information there about where to contact me on socials, what I'm doing, and that will be the way that anyone can reach out and ask me any questions they like as well.
Awesome. Well, I'll definitely put that link in the show notes below the video or the podcast episode, wherever you're seeing this. You'll be able to find Matthew Scott there. Thanks for your time today, buddy. I love this conversation.
It's been a pleasure. It's been fun. And I could talk about this stuff all day. There's definitely more that we can go into. Yeah, excited to share more of it in our future chats, because there's some exciting things that I've done. There's some things I've done which have made me a lot of money. There's some things that have lost me a lot of money too, and I'm definitely eager to share those lessons learned with people so they don't have to make those same mistakes.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy.
Cool. Thanks, John.